Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Once Upon a Time. Another great episode. In this episode, we kind of get a little bit more of a look into Drizella's past in particular, like before her, like fully joining Gothel's side, which this episode kind of brought up something I didn't even think about. It's like, why would you join with Gothel, the lady that basically destroyed your family because she pushed your mom to be? It's like, it's kind of interesting. I mean, it's something like Drizella kind of points it out herself. It's like, well, Gothel can't be trusted because like she literally pushed my mom to go down a rat path, and who's to say she's not doing the same thing for me? That's the whole thing, but obviously I'll dive into it. It's kind of interesting because we actually find out that there were actually multiple candidates that fill like two spots in the Coven of Eight, and it turns out like, oh, it's a little competition. She befriends someone, and the person has candy and stuff like that. I'm like, no, you can't be who I. And it's like, yes, that's Gretel. I'm like, what? No way. And then she brings up her brother, Hansel, who it's like, yeah, when we went through all, like, this is after they came and crossed like that, the witch and her house, of candy and stuff like that. And it's like, she got away okay, but she's like, my brother, he's got burns and scars, and at the same time, like, it did something to his mind. And then I'm like, oh man, that's crazy. And then she says a line where it's like, wait, but it's like, yeah, but he goes by a different name now. And you left it off. I'm like, what name does he go by? What? And because it clicked in my head, I was like, oh my God, Hansel is the killer. And it's like, that makes so much damn sense. Why you're going after witches? Because after your experience, you hate witches. Plus the whole chocolate truffles thing. It's like, it all makes sense why you're doing what you're doing. This is revenge against all witches for what you and your sister experienced. You know, the scars that you still hold, both mentally and physically, from what you went through. It's like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. But then I was like, well, no, it could just end up being, it could be Gretel doing all this, taking a revenge against witches for what they did to her brother. But it seems like more so what she's doing now because she wanted to become with the Coven because she wanted magic, which is interesting to find out she has magic. Her magic ends up being the fact that hers is like turning people into like things into candy, because she turned that log that was coming into her and Drizella into candy. I thought that was kind of interesting. But getting back to it, but this is all about her trying to get more powerful, much like, you know, Drizella. She got tired of feeling powerless, and she wanted to kind of feel more powerful, kind of take back her life, essentially, never feel that weak again. And so, and he actually bonded a friendship. I'm like, oh, that's so sweet. And you have Gothel being like, yeah, this whole test was a lie. Actually, I've always had my eye on you. Now you just have to prove it. Kill Gretel. What? Kill Gretel awoken you into, because it's that whole aspect of like, you have to let weakness go. And it's like by showing her like how devoted she is to her own cause of getting revenge and casting this curse. Sadly, you know, we saw a little bit of a spark of light in Drizella because she didn't want to do it. So she had the opportunity, but she's like, nah, we can't trust Gothel. We'll kind of have to find, you know, together we'll do whatever it takes to help each other. But obviously, for Gretel, that wasn't an option. So she still comes after Drizella. They were both given the same choice. Like, it was like Gothel said, everything to pit them against each other. Sadly, Ivy ended up killing Gretel. It was more so in self-defense. It's not what she wanted, but, you know, and that she ended up being welcomed. That was her test to kind of get welcomed into Gretel's coven. Which, on multiple levels, it's like, well, because Ivy, well, she got attacked in the Heights. So I'm wondering, like, did he come after her because, like, oh, he knows that she's the one that killed Gretel? I mean, does he know, or is it just, I mean, it seems like he's going after all witches anyway, but specifically going after those connected to the Coven, because even Dr. Facilier is like, well, I'm at the top of the list. That also means Regina's potentially at the top of the list too, which also puts Alice at the top of the list, but granted, maybe no one knows about her magic, which she does have some, so that could also put Zelena at the top of the list. Like, I thought he was just, the killer was only going after those associated with the Coven, but it seems like maybe all witches are in particular targets, which will go back to making sense of like, yeah, doesn't matter who you are or what you've done in the past. It's like, you were a witch, so you gotta die. And obviously, I'm gonna skip to it. Finding out that it's Jack is interesting on so many levels, because for one, Jack was Henry's best friend. It's like the dude that hates witches. You know, it's like, because maybe he didn't know at the time who Henry's mom is. Like, whoa, your mom is the wicked, you know, the evil queen. I was about to say the wicked. Well, his aunt is the wicked witch of the East. Wasn't that it? It's God, I'm blanking already. So it's like evil witches kind of run in his family a little bit. So it's kind of like but I mean, who's to say? Also, we might have a God, what was Robin's wife's name? I'm blanking. It's can remember Zelina impersonated her. So who's to say that this person that's claiming to be Jack is really the Jack they know? Maybe it's someone that killed Jack and impersonated him while they were still in the Enchanted Forest before the whole curse got sucked up. So maybe Hansel actually like used magic to make himself look like someone else. Might be dealing with a situation like that, because let's not forget what Killian actually, New Hook looked like originally before a spell was cast to make him look like OG Hook, so that we might be dealing with something like that. And I think that might be kind of the twist we're dealing, because I just think it's kind of interesting that Jack from the Jack and the Beanstalk would end up, I mean, to be fair, different people, I mean, everyone kind of goes down different routes, which is kind of make it interesting, because like obviously it goes back to like, well, you have the wicked stepmother Cinderella actually being Rapunzel. So you have that thing. So who's to say, like, after the whole Hansel and Gretel situation, he went on adventures. Maybe his whole adventures with giants and the beanstalk and everything was actually about trying to find a way to wipe out witches or something. Maybe banish all magic. I don't know. Maybe that's actually why he befriended Henry in the first place, was he could get close to him to potentially take out Regina. I don't know. No, because that can't be the case, because I feel like Regina knows him as Jack, so that's why I'm still kind of, like, that's why I'm leaning more towards, like, either that, I feel like that whole situation is a red herring, either in the form of that's not really Jack from Jack and the Beanstalk, or, there's something else going on with that whole mask and candy in the trunk. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong here. But nevertheless, a lot of stuff went down in this episode with all that. We have Facilier coming to Gisela, offering her a magic bean, but the price for it is your sister's life. And it's like, okay, why? And then like, because I was so disappointed, because I was like, I was like, no, Gisela's not going to do it, and she's literally about to do it. I'm like, what? I thought this was your chance for redemption to make everything up to Anastasia, but it's like, nope, you kind of betrayed her again. Because she didn't really know she could really trust Regina, because it's like, oh, I did kind of curse her son, and I can't be of any help, because Dr. Facilier doing what he does, get inside of people's head, and he got inside of her head and was kind of like, oh yeah, who's to say Regina's really going to help you? Like, you've already proven that you're no use to her, but it's like, if you do this, it's like you got two options, because if you don't help me, Gothel's going to get her powers, and the last thing you want is her to get her powers. But it's like, oh, you could use your sister's magic and her life, her sacrifice, to make sure that you're safe. And it's like, oh, Gisela, don't be selfish. But when the time came down to it, like, pushing on both sides, obviously Gothel's kind of like, oh, Anastasia, do it, get rid of her, oh, look what she's done. But then, like, Gisela's kind of like, well, look at what Gothel's done to us. Much like their mom, she pushed them into a corner, which once again, it's like, why are you, like, I get it, it's part of your covenant and everything, but there's got to be so much more to this. Like I said, I still feel like this has got to be part of some ingredients of whatever Gothel's really up to. Also, it's interesting because Gothel seems so damn calm, considering there's like literally a serial killer out there going after witches. Not unless this is her plan, like not unless she's secretly working with Jack. Well, like, maybe that's what's going on here. Because like I said, I just feel like she's not all that concerned about, oh, two people in her coven are already dead. She doesn't seem that concerned about it. I mean, that's probably the point. But, it's just kind of interesting to me. But she tries to push Anastasia, but Gisela's basically like, no, she manipulated me. She basically fed on my, like, anger and resentment towards our mom. And it's just, Gisela was lost, It's because they kind of they do this sweet thing at the beginning, because they actually show you like her and Anastasia when they were younger. Well, Anastasia's roughly kind of about the same, but when Gisela was younger, because it was a situation of like, they actually had a nice tight bond as siblings. And so basically Gothel ended up destroying that relationship between them by feeding Gisela's hate and anger and resentment towards her mom, which obviously was shared with her sister, because it's like, basically she had to live under Anastasia's shadow for so many years, because like all her mom cared about was Anastasia, my Anastasia, because in her mind it's like, Anastasia is the only one that still loved me. You moved on, you accepted, Ella's mom into your life, like she was your new mom, like I was just kind of cast out to the side type of situation. So, and it's just one of those things where Gisela is kind of like, I made so many mistakes in the past. And she's like, I'm not, like, if you want to do this, I'm not going to, like, stop you. Because it's like, I'm not going to hurt you. She's stopped being selfish for once. And it's also like, I'm not going to let that innocence inside of you, that pure light, you being the guardian. I'm not going to let you let Gothel take that away from you. And so Anastasia calms down and it doesn't go Gothel's way. I'm like, yeah, not getting your way. Twist I wasn't expecting is to see them kind of leaving together. It's like, oh, using the beam, which is that supposed to represent all of the magic that, I mean, I guess not all of it, probably just enough to kind of get them through. So they went back home. What is their home actually called? Like, it's like, we know where Regina and the others are from is the Enchanted Forest, but what realm are they actually from? That's never actually been given a name, has it? I mean, because I guess it's kind of like the Enchanted Forest, like 2. Like Earth 1 and Earth 2. Like, I guess that's it. Because obviously it's similar characters with different stories. And that's kind of something I was wondering too. Because interesting, because I made the comparison that the lady that worked in the bakery is obviously got to be like the blind witch from Hansel and Gretel. Because there was one in the underworld from like, Storybrooke, like that whole storyline with Emma, like they met a blind witch who was from Hansel and Gretel in the underworld. So I associate this one with that too, which will make even more sense why Jack goes after her. Not unless Jack subconsciously is doing this, not knowing. Well, for one, it could be he is under some spell that's still pre-existing, even under this curse. I feel like it would have gone away because of the whole magic thing, but nevertheless, the whole no magic thing. But it would also make sense why he would go after her first, because it's like, I mean, will she be one of his targets? Because it's like, oh yeah, you are the reason why I'm the way I am. You burned me. You ruined everything. We still don't know a lot about their lives. I'm still honestly not that familiar with Hansel and Gretel. Did we ever meet them in the original, like, series? Like, like earlier seasons? I feel weird to call that the original series. With Emma's storyline or something like that? I don't think so. Maybe you have. I'm blanking. But nevertheless, like I said, wasn't expecting that. That see Anastasia and Gisela walking away. To be fair, they have each other again, so that's good. Regina, it's like, I'm not going to forgive you, but she's kind of gotten to the point she can't understand her. Because literally, because that's why Regina was trying to reach out to her. It's like, she was literally in Gisela's situation, so fueled by revenge. She didn't want her to go down that route to lose everything. And it almost cost Gisela everything. But luckily, she still has something at the end of it. Like Regina gained a lot. She has her sister. She has Henry. She has a family and everything to kind of hold on to. So, maybe, Anastasia and Gisela can find, their happiness afterwards, so I wonder, are they completely done for the story or not? Because this does bring up an interesting thing. It's like, well, because Weaver let her go, this means his chances of getting the bill are kind of slim, but Weaver's kind of like, no, this is the right thing to do. He's like, and I know that the more and more right things I do brings me closer to Belle. So it's like, normally, we know old Rumpel would have done something selfish just for the purposes, especially if it meant getting what he wants. But he knows that's not the right thing to do. Then you have Dr. Facilier being like, oh yeah, everything I did, part of the plan. It's like, I don't know, you slimy son of a gun. I don't trust you for a second. So it turns into that whole conversation too. Because there's this whole situation of like, he got magic and he's like, oh, I want you to use it to find a way to save your son. Like everything he did with Anastasia, I guess because in his mind, it's like, oh, Anastasia was never in any danger. He was never going to let anything go too far. It was just let her use her magic enough so he could get it. But it's like, oh yeah, like when the going got tough, you immediately ran away. So that makes me wonder, like, you were kind of fine with things kind of playing out, whatever. So I don't believe you. But Regina, swept up in kind of how she feels about him. So she kind of has like a weak spot when it comes to him anyway. So anything he says, like, the silver silk he's spinning from his mouth right now, she's kind of getting entangled up in it. So I don't know what side he really is on, especially when we do know what his ultimate goal is, the dagger too. So, because I figured as much. It's like, that has to be why he was helping out anyway, because it's like, I was like, ultimately he's going to, like, you're going to think he's going to help you get home, but ultimately he's going to take Anastasia's power, because he needs to remove that from the board. Because for him, I'm sure he didn't care which way it went, because it's like, either I get it or no one gets it. As long as Gothel doesn't get it, which is like, why you're so against Gothel, I don't know. I guess it's because he knows that once magic returns, I guess he wants to be the only one that has it, and he doesn't want Gothel to have it and to be as powerful as she is, because taking care of this now will prevent her from becoming a nuisance later on and interfering with whatever plans he has. I mean, to be fair, they are both going after both magic and the Dark One's dagger, so it's kind of like, that's another reason to kind of, still in competition with one another. Maybe that's something we'll kind of find out about later on, like that the fact is there is a past connection between the two in particular. I'm curious how Lucy would react to this because I didn't know that Lucy knew that this was because of Ivy. Maybe like at some point in time, Regina told her the truth about like Drizella, this being her curse and everything. I wonder, does that mean that she actually told her everything? Like she's the one that actually cast it. Yes, like Drizella put her in that position. Not that it matters, but I was still kind of expecting that to come out and end up being kind of turned against Regina for whatever reason. So. But you have the Dr. Facilier being like, "Oh yeah, don't worry about it. You can't do anything to me, Rumpel, because if you try anything, you jeopardize your opportunities to be with Belle if you kill me." Which Rumpel's like, "If you get in my way, if you mess with my family," which part of me wonders. I mean, I'm thinking that includes not just, it makes you go, is that just referring to Belle? But I kind of feel like that still counts Regina and Henry too, as well as Lucy. And it's like, if you mess with my family, I will find a loophole. So, they are his family. So I'm thinking they're counting him. He's counting them too. I don't think he's just referring to Belle. Could be either or both. I'd like to believe it's both. Because it's like, because obviously Rumpel still doesn't trust him, which is like rightfully so. It's like he's got so much going on. Because let's not forget about God, what's his name? I'm blanking on it. It's the actor who plays Jeff from Beyond. His whole situation with Sabine is like, we know that's another angle that still hasn't come back up yet, but that's still an angle that he's playing. And for what purpose, we don't know yet. Yay! I don't know why I said that like that yet. Either way. So there's that. And then there's the other side of things with Jacinda and Henry, which I love that basically to make, it's like, well, at least Jacinda has Sabine, so she has a friend, but it's like Henry doesn't really have anyone. And so Operation Bromance that Regina and Lucy set up, it's like getting him with Jack and Killian Hook to kind of like buddy it up, and they're buddying it up. It's like, yeah. I'm like, that's so good. Which obviously this is before we find out that Jack is the killer and everything, which is super interesting. Like, that situation with him playing pool with Killian and them kind of all hanging out and stuff like that. It's like, okay, you gotta get yourself out there, Mills. It's like, fine, I'll ask out the next lady that walks through the door. Lo and behold, who walks through the door? Jacinda. Well, I'm like, dude, that's... Even though I know it's like fate and everything and just like, oh, you're meant to be together, it's still like, oh, yeah, that's super good. And then him and Jacinda start talking about it. And then I was so pissed when Henry threw the coin. It's like, oh my God, it's like something's going to happen. Either it's going to miss by a little bit or something. It's like, what happened is some douchebag grabs it at the last minute and it misses. And he's like, you saw that, right? And Jacinda's kind of like, well, I guess it's not true. And it's like, oh, two things. One, we never got to see who it was. So it's either some random person, or two, we ended up finding out there was someone there doing that on purpose, overheard the conversation. You don't think it was like Jack or something? I feel like they would have cut to Jack. Well, he was off playing pool at the time, so I don't think so. But you never know. I highly doubt it. But it's just kind of interesting. It's just one of those things where fate plays its game. Like, you may not always know like what path you're going down. It's kind of something to kind of bring up in this episode. But kind of going away from one path will kind of make you kind of see things in a different light. I'm super paraphrasing. I'm not getting the wording exactly right. It was something Weaver told Killian. But it's kind of like fate's roundabout way. It's like, oh yeah, this is to prevent things from getting back to like leading to you guys kissing and, believing too much so that you end up getting together and obviously Henry dying. But then it kind of takes a swerve later on when it has Jacinda does the same thing and it lands. And so it's like, maybe she's starting to believe herself. So I don't know, man. If I wasn't expecting that, like, I was like, oh, who's it going to be? Is it just going to be some random lady that ends up walking in? It's like, no, freaking Jacinda, dude. It's destiny, baby. It's so beautiful and sweet. So I'm very interested to see where this goes. Obviously, Lucy is feeling bad because she has to keep her parents apart, but it's the only way to make sure that Henry stays alive. But fate has other plans in store for them because it's like everything's etching them closer and closer together. So I'm very interested to see where that all goes now that, Jacinda had that little moment. We might even see her kind of, take those steps forward even more herself, because she will probably think like, oh, it's fate, it's destiny, maybe there is truth to true love and, all that. Which is kind of interesting too, because let's not forget like Jack in this world, because I'm blanking on his real name. Nick, that's right. Let's not forget Nick and Jacinda in this world are exes, and he's quote unquote Lucy's dad, which is kind of interesting because even Lucy brought it up. Nick? You mean the guy who's supposed to be my dad? Which is like, yeah, it's kind of weird having the guy who's your quote unquote dad being friends with your actual that, and that's just the whole thing in itself. But it's kind of interesting now that we know what Jack's whole deal is. So, like I said, a lot we walked away from this episode with, and I'm so interested to see what goes down in the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.